Welcome to Street Smart Spirituality with your hosts, Barry and Cole, where each week we will be discussing diverse topics of spirituality, including the right use of will, A Course of Love, A Course in Miracles, The Way of Mastery, and much more. Join us on a global spiritual adventure with Cole in Australia and Barry in the U.S. All right, everybody, welcome to episode 14 of Street Smart Spirituality. And joining me today, as always, is my friend in Byron Bay, Australia, my friend Cole. Cole, say hello.
Hey, Barry. Good to hear your voice again.
You too, my friend. This week we are going to continue on with a little bit more in-depth study and practical approach to A Course in Miracles, one of Cole's favorite texts and certainly one of my top three. So, Cole, why don't you open up that treasure chest and share some of your wisdom with us?
All right, let's do it. I love Course in Miracles. It's such a profound piece of work, and particularly, as we all know, Course in Miracles has 3 books in one. One is the text, second is the workbook for students, and third one is the manual for teachers. And I could not read the other ones that easy, but this I could do because they just give you an exercise for a day, and that was manageable. And for me, particularly 30 years ago when I started, I could even look at the word God at that time. I was like, I had so much, Catholic upbringing that it was a scary word in my vocabulary. So these lessons were wonderful because they don't start with God so quickly. So I began with those, and I could not understand them at all. I remember I used to write them down, and I used to repeat sentence over and over, and I was very lucky because at some point I just shut the book down and I just went, I can't stand this. I need help. And then within few days, I had this, I used to go to the Satyananda ashram just to chill out over the weekend. And I took the book with me. And there was only 2 visitors in that ashram. It was this guy and I arrived, right? And somebody said, there's another guy there, so maybe you take the cabin next to him. And I was passing by his cabin, and he was just pulling Course in Miracles out of his bag. And I go like, oh, this is weird. And next minute he talks to me about a place somewhere in Toowoomba, Australia, where they do Course in Miracles 24/7. I'm going like, I'm going. And as soon as I called them, I had such a profound experience of light. And it was my first experience of real light at that time. And suddenly there was somebody who actually understood all of this. And they helped me to realize that the Course in Miracles wasn't another book you learn, but A Course in Miracles was something that should generate an experience. And it's this experience that will teach you who you are and what God is and what everything is, not necessarily the text. The text really just helps you to understand what these experiences are going to be all about, and that you don't need to be scared of it. So, yeah, and then I became so passionate about this workbook, I translated it into my original language, which is Slovakian, not to publish it, just for my own sake, so I could understand it better. So today I would like to share about these lessons and how powerful they are, and also for those who are still doing them, maybe a few hints and points that could be more useful and shorten the effort because really the less effort, the more it works. So that's what I want to address today, is the workbook of A Course in Miracles, and also how to actually do it, understand it, and maybe mention a few of my favorite lessons from A Course in Miracles that I think are just the key lessons. They're all important, but there are some of them that are the basis of it all. So, how's that?
Sounds good to me. Let's do it.
Okay. Good. So there's a 365 lessons in the Course in Miracle workbook, and so it means one for each day. And many people start the workbook on the 1st of January. So if you hook up with that crew, then you are sort of globally doing this together. But when I did the work with the very first time, it says do one lesson a day. I sometimes stayed 2 or 3 days with a lesson. So my whole first round took me something over 1.5 years. And I would recommend that you don't push yourself faster than you can really go. That would be definitely a first suggestion. And particularly if one of the lessons really opens you, because it's all about this experience. It's not learning these lessons, it's not learning the texts and then telling everybody else that they need to get this. This is only you can be accomplished, and these lessons are for you only. And when you are in this experience that these lessons are pointing you to, then you naturally become the teacher of God. You don't even hold the title. You just simply shine the light that you are, and you become it. And that is how you teach it. You teach only love, for that is what you are. And so what often happens, you do a lesson and then suddenly you might drop into this space that feels like invisibility. You suddenly drop out of this realm and find yourself somewhere else. At that point, I would recommend close the book down and stay with it. Just keep allowing that experience. Like me even just talking about it immediately generates this very sweet flow of honeydew-like texture that begins to change the chemistry in my body and elevate the physical into the celestial order. In that order, we're perfect, and then you just remember who you are in that perfection, and then you just ooze it. So that's one of the second thing that I recommend is to really take the lessons very slowly, and take the title and see if you can really feel each word that you say. So for example, lesson number 1 is nothing I see means anything. So take that lesson and just repeat very slowly, nothing I see means anything. And you can even spend a little time with each word, nothing, and you feel what that means in a feeling body. Nothing. It's just really just an emptiness, hey? I. Who is the I? Who sees? I. Yeah. So you repeat the word I. So you doing it. Sometimes this ego is like a little separated part of ourselves that thinks it's running the show, which is not true. And that I is so unreal and so scattered. But if you keep repeating I, you actually get in touch with the I am. And, you don't have to wait for it. It just comes on its own. Don't have to sit on your bum for 30 years to get to that point. You just say, I am, I, who I. And then it begins to happen. It begins to manifest in you what that means. That can happen straight away. Nothing I see, right? See, what does that really mean? So you spend a little time, and also sometimes you could say it like, nothing I see means anything. Nothing I see means anything. Nothing I see means anything. So you accentuate each word, and it gives you slightly different meaning of that lesson, because Course in Miracle lessons are multidimensional, and they also quantum. They are profound, and also that if you ever do these lessons again, do it as if you've never done it before, and because they are always brand new, and no matter how many times I've done them, they just do me to a next level of awakening, the next level of understanding. They empty my mind just beautifully. And then mind, when it's empty of this static, of this meaningless thinking, so opens up the feeling body, and then you become truly present. And in that presence, your heart is born, and in that birth of heart, you elevate yourself into an experience. So each of these lessons is to generate an experience, not to learn some text that you can then, regurgitate or tell somebody else, because only you can be accomplished. So that's a very important part of the lessons, is to really look for the experience, look for that moment, unexpected moment when the lesson dislodges your mind from its fixed position, from the lockdown. You unlock your mind and you begin to flow again, and that's what life is. Life is this inner flow that is unobstructed by judgments and insane thoughts. And and Barry, feel free to stop me sometime, and because I'm doing this and I'm finding myself way too expansive right now.
Why don't you share what you shared with me like 6 months ago? You went through the lessons again last year, but this time you had the benefit of a software program on your smartwatch, and you said that just was an incredibly helpful addition to your practice.
That is, because I do these lessons every year. It's just my thing, and I sometimes forget, get very busy, the world takes over, I go and teach at school, and 4 o'clock, and I go like, oh, I haven't done my lesson. And some of the lessons are done, once a day. Sometimes the next day he tells you do this twice a day. Then he suddenly says do this 5 times a day. And then he says do this every hour. And the next lesson is every 15 minutes. And sometimes you have 2 lessons going at the same time in the reviews. So you do one on the hour, one off the hour. And so I have to say that I have forgotten, and it will tell you in the lessons, I'm sure you're forgetting these lessons. So one day I got this application, because I thought, it would be nice to have this on my phone so I can just tap into it. And so I bought this application, and every day I did a lesson. It says, do it 3 times. So I set it up 3 times, and I realized that after 25 years, I've actually never really done the workbook the way it was suggested to be done. And it was absolutely incredible, because I was in the middle of a conversation with somebody, and then suddenly, tiddly-doo, comes this sound, and I'm going like, oh, my lesson. Oh, my lesson. Teaching a kid at school, oh, boom, my lesson. And it's not that I stop and start doing the lesson, only if I can, but even just to be reminded. And this was incredible, because it's more often that you do it. Like I said it on one of the podcasts, I said it, it's like you get conditioned like Pavlov dogs, you be reminded, and eventually it becomes like even before the signal goes, or the alert goes, the sound goes off, I go, oh, it must be coming any minute now. Boom, there it is. So yeah, if you can find some software and you really devoted to this, you got to love it to do it. And but it definitely was. It showed me the chorus like I've never seen it, basically. So yeah, thanks for reminding me of that one. Also, the next thing I want to talk about is just to remember that Course in Miracles is a mind training. Yeah, it's not a heart training. It does help us to feel a bit more. Even so, Course in Miracles overall doesn't seem to be addressing feelings, and yet in every lesson he tells you to read it or repeat it to yourself. What? Slowly. And the minute you slow down, you have more chance to feel. Yeah. And I can't repeat this over and over. Like when you find yourself thinking and caught up in your mind, it's only and only because you're denying your feeling body. And more you feel, the less you think. You virtually can't be doing that at the same time. The only thing that can happen same time, if you have your mind trained and your feeling body open, is that you will balance yourself in the heart. And that is really the Christ experience, the birth of Christ in you. Because, we can talk about Jesus, and we can sort of follow the stories, and by the end of the day, it's just an example life of who you could become if you want to, or who you actually already are, but might not be fully aware of it. So these lessons are really just a preparation of the mind to be able to stay present for the feelings, to be able to present for this incredible part of us that is the will of God. Now, the will of God is this. The will of God. What is it really? What is this will of God? It's obviously an experience. It's a feeling thing. And without it, Course in Miracles become can become a mental masturbation. It's just, I see it a lot. People posting hundreds of lessons a day, saying the Holy Spirit told them to do this, and it's like, oh, give me a break. It's like Holy Spirit doesn't do that. The Holy Spirit is actually that which connects us, to our true self. And that's it. It doesn't tell us to go and do things. It doesn't function that way. Holy Spirit is a connecting link to who you are, you, and not what you should do. Because when you know who you are, what you should do or could do or ought to do comes from that. You are moved to do. You don't even do, because you, as you know yourself, disappears basically. So, but anyway, that's kind of the theology of it all. So let me just introduce a couple of lessons and how they work. So some of these lessons are done in it's like 3 sums or 2 sums or 4 sums. So first 4 lessons are the first 4 sum. Awesome 4 sum. 4 sum awesome. Okay, here we go. So nothing I see means anything is because I have given everything I see all the meaning that it has for me. And therefore, lesson 3, I don't understand anything I see. And then lesson 4 says, these thoughts do not mean anything, including the previous 3. So it's basically a cancel out of your mind. It cancels that part of you that you made up apart from truth. So these lessons are quantum. I remember one of my friends who heard this little signal coming out of my pocket when my phone was reminding me of the lessons. He goes, Cole, what's that thing? That tiddly-do that comes out of your pocket. I said, oh, I'm doing these lessons. And today it's every 15 minutes. He goes, tell me about these lessons. And I said to him, well, repeat after me, Nothing, so I have given everything I see, all the meaning that it has for me. And he goes, oh my God, that's really quantum. and then that was the day he became a Course in Miracles student. And reading with him these lessons is absolutely exquisite. So he was like, I introduced it to him, and then he introduced me into reading this lesson in such beautiful way. I just could not stop listening to this guy. We met like 3 or 4 times a week. But if you look at that lesson, it's a profound lesson. I have given everything I see all the meaning that it has for me. So look at anything. Right now, whatever you're looking at, yeah, you are the one who has given it all the meaning that it has for you, right? That is why nothing you see means anything, because you have given it all the meaning. Unless you one with God, but also when you one with God, you don't have to give meaning to anything because all meaning is given. You are the meaning of life. You are the living Christ. You walking the talk rather than the other way around. Talking the walk, that sounds silly. Anyway, so as you can see, there's a 4 lesson. Then comes lesson 5 and 6, which is like a 2 sum, yeah. And this is one of the key lessons. I'm never upset for the reason I think, yeah. So every single time you're upset about anything, even however mildly, yeah, that's not it. That's what that lesson is about. You need to realize that what you're upset about is not really it. And so real question with this particular lesson is, why am I really upset? And that's when the Holy Spirit can help you, because it connects you to that that you feel that you are disconnected from, right? So you'll realize that you're upset because whatever happens, maybe a few days ago or a few years ago, you made a decision apart from your wholeness, and now you're suffering the consequences of that. And because you are in that separated state, things will upset you. Because in wholeness, you really don't get upset. It's just, you are whole. There is no separation from anything. You're pretty much joined with anything that you see. You're one with everything. There's no opposition of any kind. So that's a lesson 5, a really, really profound lesson. And also what happens when you realize why you're really upset, that which you were upset in that moment will vanish. And that's how you know. It will simply disappear. And the lesson 6 is beautiful. It says, I'm upset because I see something that's not there. No comment. It's like, that is unbelievable. I love that. I'm upset because I see something that actually does not exist. I made it up. And it really ties with the later lesson, like, for example, lesson 79. It's like, let me recognize the problem so it can be solved, right? So you will actually realize that you are a problem-making mechanism. That's what ego is. Just makes problems, you know. You always have some problems that you have to sort out. And as soon as you sort out one, another two are coming your way in some way. So this ego thing is this little crazy device that basically is driving you nuts. And if you realize that the only problem you have, that you're constantly making up problems, you stop. When you stop, you should remember who you are. So this is where they're basically constantly pointing you to who you are. But you can't know who you are if your mind is preoccupied with the past. And here comes the next three sums, yeah, and they are all to do with the past, yeah. So lesson 7, I see only the past. Look at anything. Look at what you see right now. You see a screen. You're seeing only the past. You couldn't even call it a screen if you didn't know that from the past. And if you didn't have all your experiences with the screen, you know, how it goes blank or how it freezes, or you have all these experiences with screens, but they're all based on the past. Everything you look at, no matter what it is, you know, you actually see only the past. And then comes lesson 8 that says, if that is really so, then your mind is constantly preoccupied with the past. Yeah, and it comes lesson 9 says, and therefore you see nothing as it is now. Right? And again, the whole idea of now is much bigger than, you know, being in the now. It's like, I can see what's happening and I'm in the now moment. Well, that's already gone. So now that we often want to be in is not what it's all about. The now is a pre-separation way of being. Yeah? Like somewhere in the Course in Miracles says, now is before and after time was. So what these lessons do, they will dislodge this idea of sequence and time and will drop you into eternity, which is always, which is like a constant now. You know, it can go now, yeah? So it's constant. And it's a state of being. It's you can't get there with your sequential mind. And this is what this lesson dislodge. So again, I see only the past, and my mind is preoccupied with past thoughts, and therefore I see nothing as it is now. So there is your first 9 lessons. And all of these lessons are basically, you know, an undoing of what you made up. You know, we're often living in the effect of what we made up. But if we start looking at what we made up and dislodge it, we dislodge this mechanism that keeps us in a sequence. And once we're out of sequence, become indescribably happy. So Barry, help me now. Bring me back into time so I can finish this talk.
Many times I have thought that there is no help for you.
No, I can't be helped. I was helped once, and now I'm living in a state of being helped. Okay.
I'll throw something in here too. I mean, what you talked about It's one of the fundamental teachings and foundations of epistemology, where they say that and this is actually one of the lessons from Way of Mastery, is you've got to realize that you know absolutely nothing. I mean, everything you know is self-created. You learn from your parents learn from their parents. It's a cultural thing, it's a national thing, it's a international thing. So basically everybody literally knows, air quotes, nothing. Because it's not experiential learning. It's like hand-me-down knowledge, which is garbage.
Programming.
Yeah,
it's like a software, that needs an update.
Needed an update 20 years ago.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. Like, you get in the place of the new. If you dislodge the past, where do you find yourself? You find yourself in a now. And if you're not preoccupied with past, the knowledge is just poured all over you. And again, it's nothing you can discuss, because if you go to lessons 40s and 50s, it says, perception is not an attribute of God. And if you are God's son or God's daughter, and you are in your perceptual way of being, you're basically non-existent. You're just in this tiny little part of program that's almost like a virus. And it kind of bugs your mind. So what we're doing, we're dislodging this structure, and in the falling apart of it, when that falls down, you're still sitting there. And if your kingdom is built on a rock, if your house is built on rock and a solid foundation, nothing will shock you. Truth is very simple. As complex as this course is, at the end of the day, it leads you to how would I describe it? The simplicity of it. It's astounding. It's like a constant wow experience. So, it is not knowing, but just to walk around and saying, I know nothing, it's a trick of the ego again, because you can, now you know that you know nothing, so you just know something. It can be tricky, but there is this place where you dislodge the whole thought system that were based on separation, and then you become one with yourself again. I mean, how do you remember God? You remember you with all of you, not just a part of you. So, for example, if you're in denial of, feelings, for example, that don't feel good, or even thoughts that you think are inappropriate, then you're separating yourself. And all of this is basically, if you want to go real fast, join with anything that's in front of you. Just join with it. And that's how you begin to join with yourself. If you say, well, I like this and I don't like that, you're making separations. You're recreating the original split that you've experienced even before mind was. So the feeling has separated from the thought. The heart was gone. And then you were left with this tiny little part of you that said, don't worry, we'll sort it out. And that promise was never fulfilled. And so we're trying to sort it out and make this whole world, we're chasing our tail, getting often nowhere. And we're thinking we're sorting it out. And we know that the world is a grand illusion, because that little part of the mind that sees the world is a grand illusion. And this Course in Miracles is just absolutely brilliant, how it helps you to dislodge these mental constructs that are keeping you away from true love. Ego even made love based on separation. So we love this, but we don't love that. We always have that opposite. And Course in Miracles talks about love without opposite, which is with you right now. Are you in touch with it? And then comes that amazing lesson 108, it's just like you got to give it. And this is a very important part of the process. Once you remember who you are, if you truly fall into your whole self, it gives of itself. If you have a momentary revelation, which is just temporary, moment of wholeness, it's a good sign. But eventually you learn how to give it by practicing for a moment. Like lesson 108 says, feel love, and now to everyone you offer it. To everyone I offer this unconditional love. And the more you offer it, the more you give it, the more you have it. And then more you have it, more you give it. And this has pretty much no end. You just can keep going until it becomes almost unbearable. Because when you do this, you will speed your body until it becomes light. And that experience takes a little bit of practice. Because when you begin to vibrate on a higher vibration, actually would want to call it on the lower vibration. I think that's where the real salvation is, to reverberate the lower aspect of the self. I think people are already spinning too fast, but to actually drop into that place that vibrates slower, it just grounds everything into oneness. So that's another very important lesson, and my favorite lesson, really, because without giving of it, you lose it. And every time you're unhappy in any way, it's only because that's what you're giving right now. And you also could be in the opposition of what you're giving. So you feel grumpy, so that's what you're giving. So the more you give it, the more you have it. Right? And then you begin to reject it because you don't want to feel that way. And so now you're doubly against yourself. But if you could fully allow yourself to be grumpy, like be a total grump, 100% grump. It's like, oh, I'm so grumpy. And you not oppose it. Yeah, you fully offer it. It's like, it's a giving of yourself, of whatever that is. And that act of giving will actually release it from the grip. It's really quite incredible. That's why Course in Miracles says, that what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. So even feeling fear, if you can allow yourself to feel it totally, but we're afraid what we're going to feel if we allow the fear to be felt. So we don't. So we go against it. We again split ourselves. The you, the good one, and the fear, the bad one. And now you're in separation. But if you allow the fear to just simply show you truly, there's a lesson 26, is absolutely brilliant for this. You can take any idea you're concerned about, and then, I'm concerned about. Tell me something you're concerned about, Barry. What's your momentary concern? No jokes.
Smart ass. I had a good one too.
All right, do that one first. So it's out of the way.
Yeah, how one guy can be so witty. Okay, let's get serious. I'm pretty easygoing. I don't have a whole lot of
concerns.
Negative concerns.
Is that the answer?
Yeah.
So, okay. So let's say there's
you know me, yeah.
Yeah, I do. I do. I actually do. So, anyway, let's just mock it up. Let's just make up one, you know. I'm concerned about I don't have many concerns either, but
yeah, we're the two wrong guys to ask.
So what it does, let's say I'm concerned about the elections, right? And then it says, I'm afraid ... will happen. And this is actually something I really wanted to talk about, which in many of the lessons are these like an applications of the lessons. And those are very important, that are actually applied. So it says, I'm concerned about elections. I'm afraid. And a bad result will happen. And then it says, that thought is an attack upon myself. So it actually gets you to look at what the actual fear is. Because just to say, I'm afraid, it doesn't really tell you specifics. And it also doesn't tell you, because you know, you have a conscious fears, but you also have these unconscious fears. And what you want to get to is what you're feeling in your deep self, deep feeling self. Because your mental concerns and your feeling concerns are very different things. So if you keep asking this question over and over, so you go, I'm concerned about elections, I'm afraid, you know, a civil war will happen, you know. That thought is an attack upon myself. See, all these answers that I'm giving are my own concerns. They are my own making up. But guess what? All these little thoughts, they are prayers. You know, I'm concerned that a civil war will happen. I'm concerned a civil war will happen. And civil war, and you're basically saying there in some kind of almost like a prayer position, praying for some disasters to happen. And guess what? they are. You will have them. So that's why the answer to that question is, that thought is an attack upon myself. Because where does that thought come from? Yeah? Ideas do not leave their source. They come from me. So that lesson is very powerful in a way of finding what are your real fears. And you will also find out that often fears are of what you're going to feel if that particular thing will happen. And so we're really not afraid of fears, but we are afraid of the feelings we're going to experience if we go actually into that fear, you know, if we allow that fear to happen. And again, comes back to that relation, and then you notice the relationship you have to that feeling, and you will see that you don't have a good relationship to your own feeling. You split yourself in two camps, the good camp and the bad camp, and now you're separated being again. So you can't be fully one with yourself. So amazing, these lessons. How are we going, Barry? Let's have a look. 44 minutes?
Yep,
Shall we keep going?
If you got the juice.
Man, I'm juiced up. But I love these lessons. Maybe we'll jump into I'll just throw in few of my favorites. For example, I can escape the world from the world I see by giving up attack thoughts. This was an interesting subject because for a long time I was not sure what those attack thoughts are, right? So it's good to join up again, there's a threesomes there, I'm determined to, what I see is a form of vengeance. I beg your pardon. I'm determined to see things differently. What I see is a form of vengeance, and I can escape from the world I see by giving up dark thoughts. So what you actually realize that every thought you have, you'll project onto the world. And when you project something onto the world, you're actually afraid it's gonna it's gonna backfire on you. So you become defensive. Yeah. And this defense is actually a form of attack. When you're defending yourself, you're attacking. And those are the attack thoughts. Another way we can say it is that, let's say there's a situation where someone's annoying you, right? When they're annoying you, it's obviously you who feels it. It's not them. They're not really doing anything. They're just doing something that is annoying you, right? Now you have the feeling of annoyance. And what do you do with that feeling? You attack it. You don't want to feel that feeling. That's why you're trying to get rid of them. And this is also where the idea of forgiveness can be really twisted. True forgiveness is when you forgive yourself. But what is it that you got to forgive? Yeah? So here is that same situation. There's a person who annoys you or a situation that annoys you. That creates a feeling in you, and it's this feeling that gets attacked. And if you don't see that you are attacking yourself and stop doing that, you will unconsciously continue and perpetuate the world that's not there. You can try this one. The world I see has nothing to do with reality. It is of my own making, and it does not exist. Right? Like you have a world there, you see. I don't see that world. Only you see it. Right? I can imagine what you see it, but that's my world. Right? So we basically, because of these attack thoughts, yeah, if we project them out or we attack them, we're actually creating or making up this world we see. And then we're trying to go and fix the world. But, you got to fix that bit that's attacking. So the lesson says, I can escape from the world by giving up attack thoughts. Listen to this. The idea for today contains the only way out of fear that will ever succeed. Nothing else will work. Everything else is meaningless. But this way cannot fail. Listen to this. Every thought you have makes up some segment of the world you see. Bingo. Every thought you have makes up some segment of the world you see. Right? But it gets projected so quickly that you actually open your eyes, and you actually see a physical reality of that thought. And when you begin to see that you're making this whole world up, you'll stop. And it's just that you stop giving up these attack thoughts. You begin to embrace rather than attack. You become one with yourself again. And in that, you'll remember God. So how amazing are these lessons? Another beautiful one is, another really good one, and again a trilogy, is, or threesome, is I'm not the victim of the world I see. Why? Because I have invented the world I see. And yet there is another way of looking at it. Okay? And, we think we are we are the victims of what we see, but we actually, when we realize we're making that up, we'll have the ability to stop it or make a choice whether you want to continue doing so or just basically stop it. And the minute you stop it, you find yourself in the arms of God again because you're just not doing this insane projection. And another one of my favorites is, my mind is part of God, I'm very holy. And again, this is exactly where you need to do the little applications that are in applying this idea. Yeah. So it says, I see myself as, Barry, what do you see yourself as? I see myself as holy. But my mind is part of God. I'm very holy. Let's do it. Say, I see myself as, come up with anything that pops to your mind.
Son of God.
Son of God. But my mind is part of God. I'm very holy. See, we have ideas. We have ideas what God is. We also have ideas what Son of God is. Right? All of those are limitations. Son of God is an experience. If you see yourself in any way, you actually perceive. And we know that perception is not an attribute of God. I see myself as knowing all this, but my mind is part of God. I'm very holy. See? So it dislodges any ideas, self-inflating or even where you see yourself as less or not so holy. Doesn't matter. They're all the same. They're all just perceptions of who we think we are. And when we have that, we can't really experience who we truly are. And because your God is always brand new, so are you. You're experiencing the new. Creation really means making something brand new out of nothing, or creating, yeah? And you can't be preoccupied with the past or have any ideas. And even your greatest revelations of yesterday are just tombstones. Because right now it's a brand new moment. And a brand new moment. And if you miss it and you get caught in the stuff of yesterday or 100 years ago or ideas of creation and everything, it's just all kind of perceptual limitation that we constantly place on ourselves. So this particular lesson dislodges your structures, no matter how seemingly holy, So you learn how to be in a complete state of newness all the time. And let me tell you, it's not boring. My girlfriend says, Cole, we never go anywhere, which we really don't. But it seems like we've been everywhere.
So basically, she's a cheap date then, huh?
Yeah, no, she's the most precious date I've ever encountered because she can join me in this way of newness. So we meet and we begin to create instead of making up stuff. Having instead of having conflicts and having opinions, and we just simply meet in this sense of unity, which is always brand new. So, and you can never compare. And sometimes it's so exquisite that we go like, oh, remember what happened yesterday? So it's like, yeah, let that go, because we'll never get back to that again, because that's of the past. And there is already a brand new thing cooking in front of us. And if we want something of the yesterday, we're basically falling into a habit forming pattern. And habits is that which sets us to die. Because it calls to something familiar, and this creation is not familiar at all. It's you never know what you're gonna get. It's like a box of chocolate.
Let me share something that I this must be pretty synchronistic because I just posted this today, and it's already got like 1,500 views, and it goes in perfectly with one of the lessons you said like 10 minutes ago because you've been kind of zipping through them. But this is, people can listen to the entire thing on the channel. It's called Dissolving the Veil Thought by Thought. I'll just read one paragraph and then they can go. Beloved ones, the world is created moment to moment, thought by thought, and is held in place by your resistance in any form. Resistance is the glue that holds the world together. For resistance keeps love from flowing and moving and being able to penetrate the dream, the illusion, and to bathe you in the experience of the truth. So that's the first. I mean, it's exactly what you said, but beautiful
exactly.
stuff.
Beautiful stuff. And I mean, you know, those are the little awarenesses that help us to dislodge the structure. You know.
I mean,
because the truth, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, people have been indoctrinated, you know, depending upon how old you are, but people have been indoctrinated, falsely indoctrinated for the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years, and reading something once or reading a Course in Miracle lesson once, you know, is not going to break that crust off your brain. It's going to take constant reaffirmations and constant reading and you know, it's just that it doesn't work that way. You've got to. That's why when, you know, your Course in Miracle lesson and I read this from another source, and then there's, you know, a half dozen other sources on the channel, it just reinforces each other, and then sooner or later something in their mind just pops and they go, shit, now I get it.
Right.
You know, it's the 47th time I've listened to it, but now I got it. And that's unfortunately the way it works. So yeah,
but there is no order of difficulty in miracles. Like, it's a Course in Miracles, and you're right. You know, sometimes it takes a little bit of destructuring, particularly if the wall is too thick, you know. But there are also moments where, you know, you can open one of the lessons and bingo. Like, you know, like happened to me with the Course of Love. You know, I went to, you know, first chapter, paragraph 10, boom, completely dislodged for 40 days. I couldn't open a book. I couldn't do anything. I was just flowing in this, you know, constant lava of absolute, you know, indescribable bliss of being, right? So, you know, you got to watch that you don't put any limitation on this, because it is a Course in Miracles, and, you know, miracles are natural, and if they're not occurring, something's gone wrong. And so one has to watch out. And also what happened is beautiful in the lesson 41, God goes with me wherever I go. See, when we construct a world, then we try to find some cures. And here he says, separated ones invented many cures for they believe to be the ills of the world. But the one thing they do not do is to question the reality of the problem. Question the reality of the problem. Yet, its effects cannot be cured because the problem is not real. Because you see, we're constantly making up problems. The human mind, or ego mind, it just comes up with problems, you know. And if you can see that that's what you do, you will step before that, and you basically let the miracle lead the way rather than the problems to fill your mind with insanity. I didn't mean to negate it, but I think I did, didn't I?
No. I mean, what you've got to understand, I mean, yourself, your journey, you've been on this journey for 35, 40 years. I mean, there's your level of understanding is far deeper than most people's, and somebody, you know, I got a comment the other day about, you know, these lessons I post. Somebody said, what does ACIM mean? So I mean, there's people that have just snagged onto this, and they go, oh wow, that's beautiful. I'm going to start at level 1, and at the beginning when you talked about the software program and stuff like that, I would suggest if you're studying a Course in Miracles or anything, that you stay away from forums and groups like this initially, because inevitably the same thing happens whenever a new treatise or a new book comes out. It always splits into two camps. Somebody thinks they're interpreting it clearer than the other group, and the other group says, "Nah, that's BS. It's supposed to be this way." And it's sad, and unfortunately, most of those people end up in forums trying to, proselytize their agenda. So, take it by yourself, and these are easy enough to do by yourself, and then, you'll find somebody down the road to help you, that's really informed and loving.
I mean, they yes, you're right. I mean, like I said at the beginning, I also struggled with these lessons, but here it is. There are just few things, like make sure you slow down and make sure that you let the lesson take you where they're meant to take you, and that they're not just something that you learn so you can teach it to somebody. That you actually apply to yourself, and make sure you do those applications. They are the real key, the applications of the lessons, and they will take you where you're meant to go. I think a lot happened at the beginning when the course came out. Suddenly all these people think that they have to go out and teach the course. It's like, I think that they set up a precedent. It's like, I'm not teaching the course here at all. I'm just sitting here going, hey, here is few little things that shorten the time immeasurably. It helped me to dislodge, my own thing. But there are some exemplars out there that they begin to preach this, and write countless books. Like there's thousands and thousands of books on the Course in Miracles, and most of them delusional, basically. What people think this does, but this is actually just complete dislodgement of the structure. And next minute, the miracle is that someone's going to a concert and it's sold out, but somebody appears and gives them 2 tickets. They go, that was a miracle. I'm going like, whoa, that's like total reduction of this masterpiece, turning it into some kind of, my Wi-Fi wasn't working, but now it's working. What a miracle. I'm just like, what are you talking about? This is not a Course in Miracles, it's not about fixing and making this world better place. It's saying like, hey, you making this shit up. Step back, release, don't make it up again. If you're suffering, I mean, if you're happy, go ahead. But, when you look at the world we make, it doesn't necessarily look, people dying and, there's a whole different reality that is just not this rigid and not this dense. We're basically living in a density of our thinking. And Course helps us to dislodge this, and it has very little to do with achieving in a world, or co-creating with God is another one. We're co-creating with God, and we're making this and that and this, and I don't know, I just know my experience, and I guess some people need to do that, but yeah, it doesn't live in my reality at this point.
Yeah, I mean, people, just give up 100% the idea of trying to teach. I mean, if you're a student, be a student. Everybody wants to be a teacher. Nobody wants to be a student. I wouldn't even consider somebody qualified to teach. Maybe you that's been doing it 35, 40 years. If you wanted to, you could start teaching Course in Miracles 101, because having 35 years experience as opposed to 1 year's experience, and then somebody feels that they need to write a book about it when they don't know diddly. It's just so many people. There's so much garbage and so much disinformation in the spiritual sector on Amazon, and people writing books, and it's just unbelievable.
Oh, well, we're doing something similar, but like if you didn't ask me, I wouldn't be just chasing and trying to teach anybody anything. I'm sitting here happy in my little world. And
we're not teaching anybody. We're giving people a taste of what's out there. We're giving them an overview. We're not setting ourselves up as teachers. We're just giving them the benefit of our experience of what we've seen over the last 10, 20 years. So that's totally different.
So that jumps us straight into the lesson 61.
Excellent segue.
I am the light of the world. And now that's that. And so are you. And if I see you any different, then I'm making up the world that does not really exist. So, and this is the first basic lesson where, you're the same as Jesus. There's no difference. You have the same heart, He was a man walking this world, and so are you. He saw the face of Christ in everyone, so can you. Are you doing it? And that takes a willingness, and it takes wanting to, It's like, how do you want to see it? I'm determined to see things differently. How do you want to see them? Do you want to see the world of love and, beautiful relationships, profound relationships that create? Or do you want to see, presidential debates? Just kidding. Man, you got some shit going on in there. Hey.
Hey. I've seen stuff. Australia don't smell like roses.
That's true. I
mean, you're right.
So,
everybody
entertaining.
Yeah, definitely. Everybody is Christ in the art of becoming.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody has the potentiality. I mean, everybody makes a mistake, not everybody, but a large majority of people make the mistake. I mean, Neville Goddard used to say, and everybody quotes, you are God, you are gods. And, he clarified and say, well, you're not God, you are an aspect of God expressing. And, the analogy I always tell people is, let's say there's 7 billion people on planet Earth, and let's say there's a 7 billion carat diamond floating in the atmosphere, and the thing just explodes into 7 billion 1 carat diamonds. You don't differ in quality of the God mind. You differ in the quantity. And that's a big difference than going around saying, hey, I'm God. But you are definitely an expression of.
Definitely, and a very specific expression, because, within that, I'm the light of the world, is a realization of who you are. And what the beauty of it is that we are the same, and yet we are in a way different. Like, you are you do what you do, and you do how you do it, and I do it the way I do it. And there's an exquisiteness to what you do, and the more you're becoming whole, you expressing, you being more Barry, more you. I'm becoming more Cole than ever. I'm becoming that, or remembering what I already am, and begin to create instead of make up stuff, right? But in that is also a certain, I don't know how to put this, a certain quality and a texture and a color and and a hue of the exact you when you are shaped into a diamond, when you polished to become who you truly are, when you begin to ooze your core, your godlike, God man, God woman, our godlike qualities. Like, when I meet with my girlfriend, it's just divine union. That's what it is. And really blows me away how much of it is the maximum of the polarity when I go into my true presence, and how it ignites her radiance, which then creates the heart between the two and creates the oneness, creates the unity of the two, without needless opposing forces, reducing the light into form that will never actually last. So we are.
I mean,
we are the gift, and we all have specific something like there's not a same snowflake, there's no same thumbprint. That we're all slightly different, and it's incredible when we get in touch with who we truly are. It's like a surprise. It's like, wow. You wow on yourself, and there's like, it's not a perception. It's just the way you are.
Yeah, I mean, God doesn't make duplicates. I mean, so there's 7 billion unique expressions of God, and we're just talking about this planet. So every individual is a unique expression of God. I don't care, if you're twins or whatever. There's something different about you, and unfortunately, the sad part is, you're a diamond core. Some people's diamond are, in the blue sunlight, just shimmering, and some are buried, 3 feet in the dirt. And if they don't make the effort to find that diamond, to find their purpose for expressing God, they'll find it eventually. Not this life, the next life.
Yeah, and that's it. But you see, you can see that diamond in everyone. And that's the miracle. You can see it, and as you see it in the others, you will recognize it in yourself. It's an amazing design where you see, how you perceive him, you perceive yourself. But if you see him, holy, that you remember your own wholeness, and then you see only that. It's like, I can sit here 15,000 kilometers away from you, right? And with my spiritual eye, or the diamond within, or the essence of my being, can see the essence of your being. And if we shut up and allow ourselves to feel that what I see in you and what you see in me will unite in a brand new expression of the miracle, brand new expression of this like unspeakable communion, and in particular as two men, I think this is what I find why I love my men's groups, because if they actually knew how much Course in Miracle happens in the men's group, they would probably not even come. But I don't teach Course in Miracles, but I can't help myself to do this, and to be able to join with a bunch of guys, who come from a building site, and the other comes from an office, and the other comes from a divorce, fresh divorce, and the other comes from, being completely broke, and another one comes, in the latest Tesla, and then we all sit there and experience this exquisite oneness of who we are, plus the whole dynamic drops into this state of oneness that's every night, I tell you, I come home and I sit here completely stunned by the incredible capacity of what we can do as men. That having that profound sense of merging in a way that's healthy, healthy form of feeling each other so completely, so totally and profoundly. And that's a real miracle. I can't get over it, how beautiful we all are. And that's what Jesus says at the end of the Course of Miracles, is seen the face of Christ in all the man, and he remembered God, and that's all to it. Bingo.
There's a beautiful exercise in Way of Mastery called spend 5 minutes a day, practice being Christ.
Uh-huh.
And so everybody has a vision of what they think Jesus or Jeshua looks like. Mm-hmm. And one of these good exercises is, when you go out and you walk around the day, you shake hands with somebody, you meet somebody, project that face of Christ onto that person you meet, mm-hmm. and that'll help you, recognize the divinity in them. Yeah. And as you raise them, as you raise yourself, you raise creation. So, spend 5 minutes for a couple of weeks, and then spend 10 minutes a couple of weeks, and then spend a half hour practicing being Christ. And it's an amazing exercise. Beautiful.
That's it. Like there is just these gems coming out of everywhere. And yeah, thanks for sharing that one. That's beautiful. That's the very thing. And you can do it with, everyone. That's what real forgiveness is. You don't forgive the politicians. You don't forgive the neighbor. You just see him for who he truly is. That is forgiveness.
Yeah, I mean, the only way it will work is if you do it with everyone. I mean, you can't say, "Oh, my neighbor's Christ," and then you look at Trump and go, So yeah, it's 100% or nothing. So
yeah, and there is so many that see him that way, and yeah, it's always that, like, what is it creating in me? If it triggers you, then notice what the feeling is, what the real feeling is, and then notice that you don't have a good relationship to that feeling, and hence he had to show up. He is your savior, in a way. So is everyone else who triggers you in any way, and if he doesn't, great, So
yeah, I think we should. I think we should start. It's hour 20. I think we should start thinking about wrapping it down.
Oh man, how did that happen?
It seems like it takes us a little while, and in the last 45 minutes we start getting ramped up for some reason.
Well, let me just recommend a couple of more lessons that really briefly. There's one called 68. When I do catch myself locked up in anything, that's the lesson to do. It's called Love Holds No Grievances. Because when I get really busy or I get really tired, sometimes my ego slips in and goes, and I stop seeing things as whole, as true. And this particular lesson is just, oh my God. Or if I see anyone less as whole, then this is a profound lesson. You who are created by love like itself can hold no grievance and know your true self. To hold grievance is to forget who you are. To hold a grievance is to see yourself as a body. To hold a grievance is to let the ego rule your mind and condemn the body to death. If that doesn't wake one up, nothing will. So that's definitely one of my tops. Let me see. just give you, those 79 where it talks about let me recognize the problem so it can be solved, and then realize that all your problems are already solved. It again brings you to that now moment, now presence. So, wow, I was hoping to share way more, many more lessons, but I guess we're running out of time. Another very beautiful one is, the truth will correct, is 107. The truth will correct all errors in my mind. I mean, just saying that over and over, and it's so true. You can't oppose this. The truth will correct all errors in my mind. Absolutely true. You can't oppose it. Because truth will correct all errors in your mind. So, and their very powerful lessons are also around like 128 onwards. All those, the world I see holds nothing that I want, right? Beyond this world, there is a world I want. It is impossible to see the two worlds, so you see either one or the other. And you know exactly which one you're seeing by the right use of feeling. Yeah. And then 131 says, no one can fail who seeks to reach the truth. And, there's no brainer, that one. No one will fail who truly seeks to reach the truth. When you really, really want it above all else, there it is in an instant. No time. Time dislodged, and you just find yourself in the eternal now, which is always. Anyway, my God, I'm unstoppable when it comes to this lesson. That's just so profoundly dislodging. And there is one more thing, there's one lesson that I also find between like my top 3 is definitely I feel the love of God within me now. And, it's a feeling thing. It's not that God is feeling, but it's that which helps us to recognize the wholeness. I feel the love of God within me now. It doesn't say I think the love of God within me now. And I think this is one of the crucial lessons, one of the bottom line lessons that point to the right direction. Actually, many times I apply word feeling where it says God, because there is this slight misperception, because it's a mind training, and the Course in Miracles has a tendency be taken to the mind as that part of your head, that spot between your eyes where you think your mind is, where you think you think. And that's not so. Mind is our whole self. That includes the thought, the feeling, the love, and a physical embodiment of it. And I think this is where it really a big shift has to happen in feeling these lessons, rather than imagining God in the mind and God and perceptualizing God, basically. Great danger. You can write books on this and you will not go anywhere with it, because it's an experience. All right, brother. I think
let me just interject something too. I mean, yeah, like you said, obviously we can't describe God. We don't have a proper idea of God. One of Cryan's most beautiful messages, at least that resonated with me, he said, God is the only non-polarized energy in creation. God is pure love, simple as that. So if anything that you read, anything that you see presents duality, it is not a construct of God, it is a construct of man. Because just lift it up to the light. God is love. That's it. He is not judgment. He is not condemnation. He is not hierarchy. He is love. Simple as that. So if you're reading something that says, well, this teaching is bad, don't follow this and this and this, use that as your guideline. It couldn't be any simpler than that. Pure non-polarity. Polarity is a construct of humanity in the third density. So, okay.
Yes.
All right, let's wrap
Well,
this up.
I'll just wrap it up with the last thought, and that is that this is one of my own little things. There is this idea that heaven is above. It's actually not above. And the closest that I find heaven is under all my negative feelings is where the heaven resides. And that should redirect the forgiveness process towards the emotional and towards the intuitive and more of a feeling self, which is really the great birth of the new, which is the feeling. All right, brother, I'm done.
You're never done. We both know that.
I'm done for now because I've got a client walking in about 4 minutes. They just looked at the clock.
Okay, just let me share what we're going to do next week. We mentioned last week that Cole found a book called Anna, the Grandmother of Jesus. I actually narrated the entire book, and it'll go up tomorrow or today. This podcast will go up Friday, and the entire book will go up Friday. It's about 10 hours long. It's a beautiful read. So next week we're going to discuss that. There is a sequel to it called The Magdalens, where a much more diverse journey, and I will be recording that also. So we're going to be discussing that and how it relates to some of the other spiritual texts and stuff. And it was a beautiful book. Thanks, Cole, for finding it and sharing it. A lot of people were aware of it, but look forward to that next week. It's going to be a little bit different, but we will wrap it up for today. Thank you, Cole, for sharing your wisdom on A Course of Miracles. Thank you for joining us from Byron Bay, Australia.
Thanks, Barry.
We will say goodnight for now, and thanks for giving us a listen.